Is this a return to Nike's roots?
No question. I think every company has a core of what makes them great, and I think sport is the core of what we are about. We're about human potential and performance. Nike's back.
Since starting as an intern in apparel sales in 1988, Elliott Hill has spent his entire career climbing Nike's ranks. He has spearheaded some of the company's biggest sportswear launches and led headline-grabbing marketing campaigns.
So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Now, more than 30 years later, all eyes are on him as he steps into the company's most prominent job, CEO.
It almost feels surreal, like, hey, did this just happen?
But Hill has taken the reins at a time when Nike is grappling with declining sales and a falling stock price.
How do you think you're performing at this point?
I think we can be better.
As Hill kicks off his 33rd year at Nike and third month as CEO, he recounted his journey to the corner office and what's next for the sports retail giant. Nike's sprawling facilities in Beaverton, Oregon didn't exist when Hill first started as an intern.
We very much wanted it to feel like a campus, and we moved here in 1990.
Okay.
The buildings that you can see across the way in brown were the first buildings.
At the start of 1988, the company was worth just over $700 million. 3 decades later, it's valued at more than $100 billion.
You are Nike's newly minted CEO. How did you get here?
I took a sports marketing class, and I wrote a paper around this company called Nike. I fell in love with the company, and I thought, that's the type of company I want to work for. I can combine sport with business. And I was fortunate, there was a guy named Tim Joyce who came to speak at our university, and after he finished speaking, I went up to him and said, I want to work for Nike, and I bothered him for about 6 months, and he finally hired me, and I started at Nike June 1 of '88 as an intern.
That internship was a springboard to a lifetime career at Nike. In his early years, Hill held various sales roles, selling shoes to mom-and-pop retailers and driving around in an old minivan.
I was driving around in a used Dodge minivan, that's for sure. I drove 60,000 miles a year, and I started out in sales. I worked my way up through the sales organization, different experiences.
Hill steadily moved up the ladder, never staying in the same role for more than 4 years. In 2018, he was promoted to president of Consumer and Marketplace, a role he held until 2020 when he retired. But his exit didn't last long. 4 years later, Nike's former CEO, John Donahoe, was out.
Nike CEO John Donahoe is going to be leaving the company.
During the pandemic, Donahoe's aggressive e-commerce and direct-to-consumer business approach helped drive Nike's share price to a historic high in November 2021. But as the pandemic wound down, market conditions changed, and those strategies started to backfire. The company lost market share and strained its relationships with retail partners, all while losing sales and street cred. The board needed a replacement.
Walk me through how this came to fruition, your return to Nike.
I had stayed in touch with people at Nike at all levels of the organization. It was a series of phone calls, and it was a pretty quick decision for me.
Nike's share price jumped by more than 6% just a day after it announced Hill would assume the top job.
Is there a part of you that felt you had something to prove?
I had a great second chapter, if you will, business career. I was doing a number of investments and projects that inspired me, motivated, kept me busy. But I have to admit, there were those moments when I would walk away from a board meeting, as an example, where your responsibility is to steer, guide, suggest, provide thoughts, perspectives, and then you leave.
Yeah.
And you don't have the responsibility for continuing the execution. There was a moment when I started to think to myself, is this really what the rest of my life's going to be like? And then I get the phone call. And then here we are, and my whole world turns upside down, and it's just been a crazy 75 days.
What's front of mind for you? The next 30 days, the next year, the next 5 years?
Well, the first 60 days were a sprint, I'll tell you that.
Sure.
What I wanted to do first and foremost was to re-engage with the team. So I spent the first 60 days, and my first day in the office, I did an all-employee meeting, brought everybody together, had a fireside chat so they could get to know me.
We get to work in sports.
We do. That we do.
What are they telling you? What are you hearing?
Where we're headed, which is around celebrating the passion and emotion of sport, that excites them, that gets them motivated. That's what we have to do more of. That's when we're at our finest, is when we put athletes at the center of everything we do. We take the insights from those athletes. That's what drives our product innovation pipeline. That's what drives those emotional and inspiring stories that we tell.
Those athlete stories have become synonymous with Nike's brand.
26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed.
From Michael Jordan and LeBron James to Serena Williams and Ronaldo Nazario.
This is the Ronaldo pitch, as we call it, the Ronaldo field. And so to celebrate him and all that he means to Nike, we dedicated the pitch in his name. And then, of course, we have the statue here. And we've been fortunate to continue our relationship with him, even beyond his playing days.
Hill sees those athlete partnerships as a crucial element of Nike's past and future success. As Nike's vice president of North America, Hill forged a strong partnership with Michael Jordan and was instrumental in encouraging the basketball legend to expand his brand globally. The strategy has paid off, with sales growing to over $7 billion annually in 2024. Now, Nike is looking ahead.
We had Caitlin Clark here
Caitlin
today.
Clark this morning,
I think
yeah.
you saw that. So she was in yesterday working on her signature shoe that we'll launch, and we're working on her logo and her design of her logo.
She signed an 8-year, $28 million endorsement deal with Nike in April of last year, making it the largest sponsorship contract for a women's basketball player. What was the motivation behind that, and what impact do you think it'll have on women's sports, certainly on the WNBA?
When we were running just basketball, we never got to the women's opportunity. But by having this small team that's focused on women's basketball, it unlocked, we believe, opportunities for the game of basketball, but also in product. It becomes an opportunity to grow the overall marketplace by inviting more and more girls into the world of sport. It is an area that we'll continue to invest in, and we see tremendous momentum right now.
Hill's new role comes at a critical time for Nike. Sales dropped in the last 3 quarters of 2024, and shares have slumped more than 43% since 2023. In an effort to clear out inventory, the company began offering massive discounts throughout the year, slashing prices by as much as 30%. Hill says that approach has hurt the brand.
You said in the December earnings call, your first as Nike CEO, that Nike has become too promotional, offering too many discounts. I'm certainly not complaining, but what's your vision for how Nike should approach pricing and discounts and still uphold its brand value and market position?
There are moments in the traditional retail cycle where it makes sense to be promotional, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but we had become too promotional. In between those moments, we were even leveraging promotions to drive revenue. And frankly, that's not great for margin. It's not great for the brand. It's not great for our wholesale partners because they end up competing against us, and profitability matters for them. And so starting this spring, we're moving to a position where Nike Direct, both digital and physical, is going to actually lead the marketplace and be not only less promotional, but elevate the experience that the consumer has with our brand.
Nike also faced backlash over its direct-to-consumer sales strategy. Before the pandemic, it started to pull back from large wholesalers like Foot Locker and Dick's Sporting Goods to focus on its own brick-and-mortar stores and e-commerce. Now, that strategy is changing.
Pre-pandemic, Nike severed ties with retailers, wanted to focus more on direct-to-consumer. What are your plans to evolve, to rebuild, your partnership with wholesale retailers like Foot Locker and so on?
I think it all starts with the consumer. There are consumers that want to shop choice, wholesale, either digital or physical. And the good news is it's a space that I spent a big part of my career. I have great relationships with our retailers, made it very, very clear to our team, first and foremost, that we were going to run a balanced marketplace. And I've had countless numbers of phone calls and meetings already with them, making certain that they understand the importance that they play to our brand and the development of our brand. That's been a great reception, by the way, from our retailers. Are saying, okay, Nike's back.
Gone are the days of going wide. Hill wants to go deep. And he says Nike will be zeroed in on 5 main categories moving forward: running, basketball, training, football, and sportswear.
I live in Manhattan. I run in Central Park. I see a lot of people wearing Nike running shoes, but I also see On Running.
Yeah.
I see Hoka, right? A lot of these brands that have eaten into Nike's market share. So what are your thoughts on how you go back to reestablishing yourself as the premium athletic brand? And what do you see as the #1 driver for growth for Nike as we move forward?
It does always come back to have new, different, innovative, coveted, beautiful product. The lineup that we have in running is the strongest lineup that I've seen since I've been here, top to bottom, across the board. And we have to have those retail partners to help us take shelf space, open to buy, and market share from our competitors, because frankly, we left it open. Ultimately, we have to earn our way back onto the shelves. It's that simple.
You've repeatedly made this reference where you say we're going back to sport. Sport is at the heart of our brand. When I think of Nike, I think sports apparel. So what do you mean by that?
We were running what we called the gender offense, so men's, women's, and kids. We lost the sharpness around sport. And so we're reorienting the organization to focus sport first. So think running, think basketball, think football or soccer, and then gender second. By lining it up by gender, it also helps us find opportunities specifically for that gender, whether it's color and material that's different for a man versus a woman.
Another big focus for Hill is product innovation.
This is the LeBron James Center, and it's all about advanced R&D and innovation. And it's, without question, we believe, one of the most foremost centers of innovation, of athletic and human performance.
Hill still recalls the 1988 unveiling of Nike's now famous Just Do It campaign.
I'm thinking of being a lawyer. Just do it!
He also led launches of footwear for elite athletes. But in recent years, critics, including investors, say Nike has fallen behind in the innovation race.
What does product innovation look like for Nike as you move forward?
We have a team of people that are already working on product in 28, 29. What's that look like? So long-term, very futuristic innovation. The best innovation does come from an athlete. How to make you run faster, jump higher, be safer, move quicker.
For Nike, many of those insights came from athlete partnerships.
Nike's at its best when we have an athlete, and we have a great relationship with that athlete, and we're able to partner with that athlete to take insights from their game, and in this case, obviously basketball, and to build the product around that individual's game. In this case, it happens to be LeBron James. He's very involved in the footwear that he wears and how it looks, how it fits, how it performs. Here's just a representation of some of the great executions that we've done with him.
Few are as familiar as Hill with the history, people, and inner workings of Nike. Despite 3 decades of experience and a clear enthusiasm for the CEO role, he has his work cut out for him.
In your 60 days as a CEO, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about leadership?
I have to be who I was, always. I have to remain authentic. Just because I have a title and a new responsibility, it can't change how I show up, because I think if I do, people will see it, smell it, sniff it, and I've done some just real tactical things to try to do that. And it sounds so simple, but I go get my own coffee in the morning, and I go get my own coffee in the afternoon. I work out in our gyms here every morning, and I move around the gyms and the coffee places so that I can interact with more and more of our teammates. You can't let a title or a new responsibility change who you are to your core. You have to show up as authentically yourself as you possibly can.